Welcome to Inside the Listing. I'm your host, Jordan Stewart, where we talk about all things marketing and what's actually worked for your listings. Today, I've got a really good guest. It's actually my dad, Michael Stewart. He is broker owner of Stuart Real Estate,
Yeah.
and this is going to be a good combo.
All
So,
right. Good deal.
what's up?
Just came to hang out with you today.
Okay, so getting started. How long have you been doing it? What got you into real estate? Um, a little bit of history of that.
All right. Yeah. I've been doing real estate. My wife and I, Diana, have been doing real estate for right at 7 years.
Mom, as I know her.
Your mom. We sold a business that we had built and operated for a number of years, and looked up and said, "What are we going to do now?"
Yeah.
So we've always done things that were based around customer service. We really enjoy working with customers and helping folks.
Mhm.
You know, we do a lot of volunteer work and serve on boards and things. So we knew it was going to be something that was industry, service oriented, where we could help folks.
Yeah.
We started with a boutique broker there in Levelland, just a few agents there, and learned a ton. That broker taught me a lot. I'd gone and taken the test and did the book work, but until you actually get in the field, that's where you really, really learn what it's like, the when you get down in the field. So it's, I guess about 6 or 7 months ago, we started our own brokerage. I got my broker's license, and Diane and I both own that. And we are independent brokers and just love every minute of
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
it.
Um, Touching on it's complete 180 from
Yeah.
what we did before, from the business you had before. I mean, still same customer service industry,
Sure.
but oil changes,
Right.
to real estate is complete 180.
Yeah.
But you still carried that customer service along. Like what did that look like whenever you kind of started that? You kind of already knew what to do with customer service, right? Because I
Sure.
mean, it's a big customer service
Customer,
industry.
yeah, customer service has been what I've done all my life. I grew up in the construction business. My dad was a trim carpenter, and that's the trade that I learned. And really enjoyed that, crafting things with my hands. But I learned a lot about homes and how they're constructed and all of the nuts and bolts of a house. So, I mean, I was very, very familiar and at ease with those things. I had a 70-mile-an-hour head-on collision several years ago, a number of years ago, and I couldn't lift and tug and pull like I used to. So I knew it had to be something that wasn't so physically demanding after that wreck.
Yeah.
So that's why we had got into the oil change business, because it wasn't quite lifting plywood and sheetrock all day.
Yeah.
Uh, and it was always about pleasing a customer and taking care of a customer's needs, listening to what they wanted, what their needs were, and trying to take care of them. And that's, I mean, whether you're selling a widget or selling a house, that's the most important thing, is that customer service.
For sure. And I think we'll get into the meat, but I think like me working there and learning that has like helped me pass along to the business that I have now. So I think when you started that business, you were mainly focused on customer service. Yes, like the service and what you're going to do and how you're going to pay your employees. Yes, that comes along with the business, but I think you really focused on how are we going to give them the best experience and how are we going to
Mm.
want them to keep coming back to where they feel comfortable with that customer service. So I definitely think that helped me along the way to run and start my business. But anyway, we'll kind of get started here. So what's something about the way you do real estate now that is completely different from when you first started? So more of like listing. So if there's anything that like you're doing completely different now than you were when you first started.
Yeah, like when you go on when I go on a listing appointment, when I first started, I had to sell myself. This
Yeah.
is what I can do for you. This is me, 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 me. And I finally learned that you listen to the customer, find out what's important to them.
Yeah.
You need to find out what's motivating them to sell. There's always a story, or most always a story. It's a wedding, somebody's getting married, or a divorce, or new children, or a new job, or having to move because of a sick parent. Whatever the reason, listen to those reasons and then strategize how you're going to market that property, how you're going to take care of that client. But I think listening has probably been the most important change that I've made as I've matured.
For sure. I could definitely see that. Like going into it, trying to market yourself as heavy and as hard as you can, because like I've got to get this listing. But then kind of switching gears, it's like, no, they really want me to be of service to them,
Mhm.
to where I can really, really, really meet their needs. So that's really cool that's doing that. Um, okay, so what are some things that you're trying to learn about the seller before you start talking about yourself? So same thing with, you're trying to listen to them, listen to their story. What are you doing before you try to start marketing your service?
To know how to market that house as aggressively as we can, again, you got to listen to their story and what's the reason. They may need to sell fast and get moving.
Hmm.
So that gives us an idea that we need to be very aggressive on that pricing and marketing. They may have plenty of time, and the price is more important. I mean, you always want to have the most price that you can get
Yeah.
in the least amount of time, at the least inconvenience to that customer. And you just need to know what's the most important. They may have 3 or 4 pups or some small children, so the inconvenience of having to keep the house totally show ready and at a moment's notice be able to get out of the house is really hard. So they may be wanting to make sure that we get it priced down to where we get a couple of good showings and get an offer really, really quickly so that they can kind of relax on that side. Or the top dollar may be the absolute most important thing, and we could sit on it a minute if we do price it at the top of the price range.
Yeah. That's really good. Um, I could definitely see where price is going to be the biggest factor that kind of moves them. I mean, obviously, there's going to be other things, like you said, there's a wedding or, unfortunate things that happen where it's forcing them to move. But I could definitely see where pricing could be the biggest problem and blessing in both. Have you seen
Well,
any
oh,
problems
for
with that?
sure.
Yeah.
Every property will sell.
Yeah,
It depends on the price.
for sure. Yeah.
It makes no difference. We've
What I've
sold
heard.
some houses that were in really, really rough shape.
Yeah.
We got it priced appropriately and was able to get it moved. And then we've sold some super high end ones that brought top dollar, some that brought more than I really expected them to bring.
Yeah.
So you get that whole gamut. It's marketing, listening to your client, finding out what their goals are, and then marketing it accordingly.
Yeah. I've even seen that sometimes with me doing the media of the house.
Mm.
Like I can do all I can with the marketing, but if that house isn't prepared well for the market, then the marketing isn't going to help it. I did a YouTube video not that long ago where it was saying, like, think of a truck, and if it had engine problems, if it was dirty, if the photos were horrible, and then you try to go sell that truck, then, you're not gonna blame the marketing because the truck didn't sell. You have all these other issues. So, like, if that house really wasn't prepared for the market before your marketing happens, then, that's tough. And I feel like price kind of integrates with that too. Because, like, if it's not priced right and you're constantly coming down, that's gonna be like, "Okay, well, what's wrong with the house?" That's what people are gonna start thinking.
Absolutely, and we find more often than not, if the market suggests where that price needs to be, and they choose to go above that,
Yeah,
uh, we've seen them sell for that, but more often than not, they end up taking less than what we had originally suggested because, like you said, it will sit on the market, and after it's been on the market for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, that's when you get your premium buyers or you're the
for
most
sure.
ones that are looking so much. Once it sets longer than that, then folks start wondering what's wrong with the house. Why is it not selling? Well, somebody saw something I didn't. Even if there's nothing wrong with the house
Yeah.
other than the price, folks start wondering why hasn't it sold? So the customer then begins to really think about, man, we've got to get this thing sold. We've got to get this sold. We start pushed against their deadline and they'll take whatever offer they get.
Yeah.
So you've got a buyer that thinks there's something wrong with the house. Well, I'll buy it at this price. And they throw a lowball offer. The seller starts getting a little more desperate and they'll take something less.
Yeah.
So more often than not, we see customers that get less money for it if they price it too high.
Yeah.
And we give them those suggestions and the seller, they steer the ship,
For sure.
but we have to give them our very, very best, and they we have to give them our honest opinion,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
whether it's something they wanna hear or not.
Right. Well, they're hiring you to do that.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So I feel like I said in the last time, I think it's a disservice if you're withholding stuff from them because they're hiring you to market their house, to
Right,
sell their house and
right.
get the very best for them.
Yes.
When you're saying that, I was kind of thinking back to the truck analogy that I
Mhm.
had, where it's like, okay, if you have all these problems with the truck and you're trying to push it out 10 more times with your marketing, you're not fixing the issue of the truck. You're just getting your problem in front of more people. You know what I mean? So until you can really make your game plan and you can really like hone in on what needs to be right for this house, then I think, it's better to do that of what I've
Right.
seen.
Yeah. And I always tell my clients, my sellers, when I meet with them, I tell them now, I'm going to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm going to tell you things that maybe you don't want to hear, but I'm going to tell you the truth and what's happening in the
Yeah.
market because that's my expertise and that's what I bring to the table. And I try to do it in a nice way. I lost a listing one time because I told a lady that needed to maybe do some deodorizing. She
Mhm.
smoked
Yeah.
and she smoked outside, but she would leave the door open.
Yeah.
So the house smelled like
Right.
cigarette
Yeah.
smoke and it that turns off a lot of
For
buyers.
sure.
And she kind of got her feelings hurt, and that was the last thing I wanted to do. But I wanted to be honest with her and let her know, hey, this may cause you to have problems with the sale.
Yeah. Yeah. And we kind of touched that on my last podcast with Cole, talking about, you got to tell them all these different things. Like it
Absolutely.
may be those hard conversations. And what I've learned is like from a new agent doing those presentations, that's really awkward
Right.
for them to do that up front.
Yeah.
But if there's some kind of trainings, if there's, you've got to get your feet wet in doing that. So you're
Right.
probably going to lose some at
Sure.
the beginning from what I can see.
Sure.
So you're going to lose some at the very beginning to gain more on the back end,
Yep.
you know? Okay. So kind of playing off of that, um, what's one big thing that you think separates agents who constantly win listings and then some that lose? So you just talked about how you lost that listing from telling and being honest with that seller. What's something that you kind of see in the market of people that are, winning these listings and then some that are losing them?
And a lot of it does come from experience. You get more comfortable
Yeah,
each time, and I think that confidence, not arrogance, but confidence in your ability to take care of that customer's
yeah,
needs, and you know yourself, these transactions are most of the time the largest transaction investment that a person has
for
is their
sure.
home.
Yeah,
So you've got to put off or elude or whatever
yeah,
an air of confidence, and like I said,
hmm,
not arrogance at all, but make that customer feel comfortable that you know what you're talking about. You're capable of taking care of that sale for them and handling all of those issues that arise. Because every transaction we've had, with very few exceptions, have had issues come up that we've needed to kind of navigate. Sometimes the client never knew because it was something we could take care of.
right.
That's why they hire us, is to make it as easy and as inconvenient for the as convenient for
Yeah.
them, take those inconveniences away from them.
Right. And even that confidence thing is I've kind of learned in my business is if you are carrying nervousness and it doesn't seem like you have confidence, then that's going to pass on to them and they're going to be nervous.
Absolutely.
So like as I'm walking into these top dollar houses and like I'm doing this media for them, if I walk in and I'm kind of timid and like I'm not sure what to do, then they're going to be the same way. It's like, well, I really hope that he's going to be able to present this house well,
Sure.
But if I walk in with the confidence, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll make this look great. Even if I don't feel like 100% confident in that area, then they kind of feel that too and they feel confident in
For
that
sure.
too.
For sure.
Um, is there one big thing that you can remember, a story, a moment, or something that completely changed the way that you do your listing presentations?
Um, Going into a home, helping somebody get visiting with them about getting ready to sell a home and finding out that it's a parent had just passed away
Yeah,
and they were having to get it ready to get it sold because they needed to get that thing sold to kind of help take care of
for
other
sure.
obligations that they had. That made me really try to understand why the folks are selling, no matter what the reason is.
Right.
But it made me really want to listen that much more because I bounced into that one ready to just, man, this is Michael Stewart and we're going to sell this
Yeah,
house for you.
absolutely.
And they were very, low key. And
Yeah.
once I listened to what they were doing, that house was full of memories. They grew up there and they had just lost their parent. I mean, the dining room is where they gathered for Thanksgiving, and in the corners where their Christmas tree was from when they were a kiddo, opening all those Christmas presents. So it made me understand those memories are in that house. But I learned to talk to them about the fact that it wasn't the house that was the memories.
Mhm.
It was the things that they experienced with their parent in that situation. That's what they get to carry with them. And just because they're selling the sticks and stones doesn't mean they're selling those memories.
Right.
So it made me really understand the importance of listening and trying to get to the meat of what's going on with every sale.
Yeah. That's so good. And I've learned that buyers are more buyer happy because it's like, "Oh, yeah, this is what I want. We're gonna go find this house, like, we're going out," but it can be a complete 180 with a seller because, like you said, it could be a death, it could be a forced move, it could be, a number of things where
Yep.
it's not always a happy
Mhm.
experience, so I think matching that energy with that could really help immensely for that.
For sure.
Um Okay, what do you do after you serve sorry, hold on. What do you do after you secure the listing that makes the seller feel that they've made the right choice? So after you've got that listing in, what's something you do to be like, "Okay, he's got it. He's got it taken care of."
Constant communication,
Yeah.
making sure that customer knows what's going on. Uh, Even if it's a slow week and there hasn't been much activity, I still contact that client and say, "Hey, here's what we're doing." On the backside, this is the marketing. This is what we're fixing to have boost out, whether it's shooting video or changing up our listing photos or whatever we're planning. Whether it's open houses, occasionally we'll still do open houses. It's making sure you communicate with that client. It keeps them from guessing.
Yeah,
Like, well, I wonder what's going on. They don't
right.
have to wonder. I want to make sure that they understand that.
For
And I
sure.
think a good agent, that's what they
Yeah.
do is communicate, communicate, communicate.
Yeah, and even like you said, like in the slow times,
Yeah.
I think that helps. It's like, "Hey, we're trying to do all these different
Right. Right.
things, but still trying to have that communication with them." I think they appreciate that too.
Sure.
Um, with doing that, is there anything like within your listing presentation that you do during those slow times? So if there's nothing, I guess it can be outside the listing presentation. Whenever the house is listed and there's a slow week, besides just communication, do you email them, text them, call them? Is there something you send them? What does that look like?
A lot of times, especially if it's sitting for a little bit, I'll do another market analysis and see what's changing in the market
Yeah.
and make sure that we have that data to back up our recommendations to the clients.
Yeah.
Uh, as the houses showed, lots of times agents, when it's shown by other agents, will send us feedback,
Mm.
what their clients thought about it, what that buyer or that potential buyer thought about it. And then we communicate that back to our sellers, letting them know, hey, they didn't like the layout or it didn't fit their needs. The master bedroom was a little too small. Whatever the reason is, make sure we communicate that back. Some of the things we can change. Some of the things we can. If it's a functional layout or
Yeah,
those kind of things, there's really not anything we can do.
for sure.
If it's noisy neighbors or
Yeah.
those kind of things, we can kind of address some of those things. So, but it's just communication.
Yeah. That's really good. Okay. Um, Out of everything you've said, if there was person listening, a realtor listening, somebody kind of just getting started in listings and real estate world altogether, what's one thing that you would want them to know that you've learned now from this whole conversation? It can be anything in this, that could help them with their listings. So one thing that you would want them to remember.
To be upfront and honest with your clients. Never ever tell them something that's untrue. Stay in constant communication with them. Learn everything you can. Listen, listen to what their needs are. Make sure you know what the motivation is so that you know how to serve that client. We've talked about that several times. What's happening in that seller's life. Same thing with a buyer, but in that seller's life that's driving this sale,
Yeah.
because that is a huge part of how we market, how we handle that client, how we communicate with them. If it's an older person and they're not comfortable with text, it's a phone call.
Yeah.
If it's a young guy, your age, you would a whole lot rather get a text than a phone call.
Yeah.
It takes up too much of your time, and we get that. So we try to make sure, and that's what I think new agents need to know is listen and learn from your client what their expectations are.
hmm And probably the customer service
Oh,
too. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's why y'all have been really successful in doing this and transitioning into it just because you carried that along. Is that something that can be taught? Is that something they can learn? Um,
Man, you can learn it, but you've got to have a little bit of oomph about it. You know,
mhm,
if if you're not outgoing, it's hard to do that.
yeah,
So if it's someone that's just an introvert, it's a little more difficult.
yeah,
Your mom and I, Diane and I, work off of each other. I can walk in a room full of 30 strangers, and before I leave, I know 5 of them.
yeah,
I know who they are, what they do for a living, all those things. Mo Diana, your mom,
yeah,
now she's not quite so much, but she'll be right there with me,
for
and
sure.
she has her expertise, I have my expertise.
Yeah,
We make a great team. We have for a long time in our oil change business and in this.
yeah,
We are I think we are the perfect power
right,
you
yeah,
know? I mean, we raised a couple of good kiddos,
yeah,
together by playing off each other's strengths and weaknesses.
right. And I think that can play too with real estate is even catching those listings. Like since y'all's vibe is a little bit different,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? So like somebody may be more apt to go with mom or may be
Absolutely.
more apt to go with you. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So like I think that y'all having that
Mhm.
dynamic can really help.
Oh, for
And
sure. It
have
happens
you
all
seen
the
that? I was
time.
gonna say,
Your mom will get calls on some, or even we've met them together, and they'll tend to communicate with her more
yeah,
than me. That happens all the time.
yeah. And I think that's pretty unique too to
Absolutely.
be able to work
Absolutely.
together like that.
Yeah. We're best friends.
Yeah,
You know, when we
right.
had the oil change place, our desks were as close as you and I are sitting in the
Yeah,
same office.
right.
You know, there was times that she said, "I gotta go to the bank and make a deposit today because I need to get out of here for a minute," or "I
Right.
need to go to the shop," you know, those kind of
Yeah.
things. But we're best friends, and we just enjoy working together.
Yeah. That's really good. That's really good. Well, I think this is a good convo. I think people can pull out of this podcast to use for their business.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of power and knowledge that you just gave. So I really appreciate you coming on as my second guest of this podcast. I'm
Awesome.
really excited where it goes. But thanks for coming.
Thank you so much, Jordan.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
absolutely.